Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Aftermath here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host here, the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode, we're going to talk about who is JD Vance. This is basically a backstory breakdown of how JD went from being a poor kid here in Ohio / Kentucky into a vice presidential candidate now. I would have done this on the NEA's channel, but he won't send me a link. Don't know why. He could have literally had like any of his panelists that are friends with me on the friggin' Discord send me a link. But what it's semantics at this point, bro. I tried to get on there about 20 times now, and I'm just said fuck it at this point, honestly. I think he's just in his own world, is what it is, which makes sense. He usually is. It's fine. It's whatever. But yeah, anyway, so basically, break down JD Vance. JD was born a couple months after I was here in Ohio back in 1985. He grew up between Ohio and Kentucky. He lived in Middletown, Ohio, which is basically outside of Dayton area there, if I'm not mistaken. And then he ended up writing a book back in 2016. Well, first off, he went into the U.S. military at the age of 18, became a Marine at 18, basically to get out of Ohio. Not really as a state, but just, he didn't have anything to do otherwise with his life and wanted to basically make something of himself. Knew he couldn't do it on his own because he was a poor kid and stuff like that, so had to basically go to the Marines to get the ability to go to college, is what it was there. And that he actually admitted that too, by the way, is the reason he went into the military was to get a college education, so it is there. And so he used that to get his I believe it was Juris Doctorate, I want to say, eventually, and a couple of things there. And then eventually in 2016, he wrote a book called Hillbilly Elegy that was about his life. Specifically, it was titled Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of a family in a culture in crisis. Then he ended up running for U.S. Senate. He won, obviously, the Senate seat there is what it is. Obviously, the Hillbilly Elegy Hillbilly Elegy book was turned into a movie back in 2020. Really, really good movie, by the way. Written by directed by Ron Howard. Very, very good book. Very decent film. The only issue I have with the film, honestly, is that really it should have been like a Netflix, like 10, 12 episode, like one season series, basically, because there's a lot of stuff that was not covered in the movie that was in the book. And I talked about this earlier on Grandson Ed this afternoon. And basically what it is that JD started out very young, basically showed how his mom was a drug addict for decades of her life, showed how there was really no father in the picture there, because I think his dad was basically like a loser is what it was. And then from there, it was essentially hang on. So I had to mute NEA because he was popping up my ear real bad. So yeah, basically, JD grew up here in Ohio. He also grew up in Kentucky because he had family there in Kentucky as well. And he was going back, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I want to say his father maybe moved to Kentucky is what it was there. I don't know exactly on the thing, but whatever. His extended family in Kentucky there. So he had summers in Kentucky and stuff like that. They would go back and forth. And then eventually his mom, it was him, his sister, his mother, and I believe his grandmother that lived here in Ohio. And eventually, mom would take off for, days or even weeks at a time, random dude here, random dude there, obviously trying to get her junkie fix on because she was a junkie for quite a bit of her life, so it is there. And I believe it was actually the opioid crisis that exacerbated her usage is what it was there as well. And then eventually, if you watch the movie itself, it explains this whole thing, and it goes into like whole detail of like JD trying to go to college at the time, and then having to come back here to Ohio and deal with his mom's bullshit, trying to get her clean and stuff like that, and being like, I don't really have time to do this, but it's semantics at that point, like I still want to be there for you and stuff like that. And this at the time, by the way, his wife, I want to say it's Usha is how you pronounce her name. I could be wrong about that one. She's Indian background. They were actually dating at this time in college, and he was basically like, she was there for him, obviously, like emotionally, etc., etc. during that time. And eventually what it was is he basically, as the movie portrays, he basically got his mother into a rehab place and then sort of just like, tried to get back to college as much as he could there for like finals and stuff like that. And actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was actually, this was when he had met Peter Thiel, I think is what it was actually. It wasn't finals, he met Peter Thiel at the time. And Thiel had offered him an interview for a job, is what it was there. And that's actually how JD then became a hedge fund guy after the fact, is what it was then, because it was Peter Thiel's influence in his life as both a mentor and a friend and stuff like that, and basically a father figure for that matter, if you will, that led to JD being able to, financially get ahead in life then. And then eventually it was, him writing the book in 2016, eventually becoming a movie in 2020, jumping into the Ohio Senate race in 2022, winning the Senate race in 2022, and then becoming a U.S. Senator for about the last year and a half, give or take. And from there, now we're basically seeing him tapped by Donald Trump to be Trump's vice presidential nominee now. That's just a quick overview of who JD Vance actually is. From my understanding, from my personal experience with the man, I really have never really talked to the guy, but I have interactions with his, various the switchboards and stuff like that with the U.S. Capitol, and I've called up his Senate office a few times, and I know he sent me at least one or two emails in the past that definitely you could tell were not like some copy and paste bullshit. Like if it wasn't him, it was some staffer like literally writing the shit out themselves or whatever. So yeah, really good dude. At least as far as I can figure out. Don't really see any nefarious things with the guy. The only bad part I see with this man, and I've talked about this in the past now with Bilderberg and stuff like that. I believe there's two Bilderbergs is what it is. Because Vance was at the Bilderberg meeting at least once or twice with Peter Thiel. That being said, there's actually, I believe, two different Bilderberg meetings. There's the main ballroom meeting, which is like everybody's there, and it's like, people just kind of like, hobnobbing and glad handing and stuff like that, and being like, oh, you want to do this thing, whatever the case be, like, hey, I can get you over here, and you can, invest in this kind of shit or something like that. Like, it's not really like insider trading per se, but it kind of is in some ways, potentially. As it doesn't go on in Congress and Senate all the time is what it is there. They can legally do it, unfortunately. But anyway, yeah, it's basically just like, hey, we know this guy's a billionaire over here and he's your buddy. Like, we're going to get you involved in this kind of thing, whatever the case be. Like, here's some money, basically, is what it is there. And then you have the secondary Bilderberg meeting, which is, whether it be off to the right, off to the left, whatever the case be, there's like a smaller room there, like a little like creepy room, basically, if you will. And that's where your Soros types, your Rockefeller types, your Rothschild types, all the fucking heads of the Bilderberg families, that's where they're hanging out at the entire time. And it's whenever they would tap somebody to go into that room, that's what you got to worry about right there, is that shit. And I don't believe that JD's ever been tapped to go into that room is what it is, dude. I think he was just in the main meeting hall there is what it is, the main big old ballroom, just having dinner with people is what it is there and whatnot. And was just invited along, essentially, what it is. So I would like to think there's not anything nefarious about the man, but I do want to point it out just in case something ever does happen. But then again, in that same vein of things, I mean, in the last 5 years or so, you've seen President Trump literally send his own proxies to Bilderberg at that point, dude, in the forms of Mike Pompeo and Jared Kushner, et cetera, there. So, it's not like Trump hasn't done the same fucking things. And again, it could have been something where he just sent him there to be like part of the main ballroom and like, kind of scope out shit and see what was going on, basically. Like it could have been like some surveillance kind of deal, whatever the case be or something. Who the hell knows? But anyway, but yeah, basically JD started out as a poor kid, grew up very, very poor, very, very, like pretty much what I would consider to be like, if not ghetto adjacent, just in the fucking ghettos of this state, basically. For a lot of his life, because that's all his family could afford is what it was. Worked his fucking ass off, literally did everything possible he needed to do in his, formative years and into his teenage years to even like try to scrape by, help his family out, help them put food on the table, etc. there. And then, of course, like I said, realized like, oh, he couldn't afford college, never would be able to afford college, so the only way he could get college is go join the military and get the GI Bill is what it is. And that's exactly what he did, and that's exactly how he accomplished his eventual college career. and was able to now make himself a known name in politics is what it is. So, yeah, pretty much. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, candidate that Trump actually could have picked to be vice president right now. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens with him and Kamala come any kind of debate they would have at this point, because he is going to wipe the floor with her fucking ass, dude. I can tell you that right now. Like, he could literally sit there in a fucking chair and, like, call her out to her face for 5 minutes. He would just wipe the floor with her at that point. You don't have to get up at all, dude. You could just sit there and fucking do what needs to be done. But yeah, like I said in the last grandstand, one of the best things I ever saw JD do, and this is when I exactly knew he was gonna win the U.S. Senate race back then during the primary season, and it was that exact moment that I was like, okay, I'm definitely voting for this guy. And it was when you had Josh Mandel, and I can't remember what that old motherfucker's name is now, because there was a bunch of people running back then. I need to go look it up real fast, actually. Yeah, let me go back here now for a sec. Mike Gibbons, that was that fucking idiot. Okay, yeah. So Mike Gibbons ran in 2018, failed miserably against a bunch of the field. But if you doesn't know who Mike Gibbons is, I'll show you a picture of this dumb motherfucker. So this is that idiot Mike Gibbons. It was Mike Gibbons, and then it was it was Mike Gibbons, and it was this guy Josh Mandel, who was the ex-treasurer of Ohio, who had gotten into it back and forth on the debate stage. There was what it was during one of the debates. And it was kind of weird. They had like some weird chairs going on there. Actually, let me see if I can find the video here. Yeah, right here. Okay. So you had, this is actually a great picture right here. So you had these two idiots basically trying to like fake fist fight each other. JD's sitting over here in the corner in his chair, which is kind of weird how they had these chairs. So you had like you had the Gibbons and the Mandel chairs that were just like some rando ass chairs. You had Jane Timken's chair that was almost like a weird back chair, and then both Matt Dolan and JD Vance having like the big man chairs, which look how much of a pussy Matt Dolan is in that corner, dude. Like he's like the way he sits is just even like a bitch made fucking rhino sack of shit over there. So, but anyway, so yeah, you had these two guys basically getting in each other's faces about like, oh, you know, like let's do this kind of thing, whatever the case be. And then you got JD over here who ends up standing up and he's like, just chill the fuck out, guys. Goddamn. And then like sits back down. And I was like, yep, that's gonna be the future senator right there. So yeah. It's good times, man. Good times. But yeah, JD eventually won that. And then you had ironically enough, Bernie Moreno ended up dropping out of that race really early on back in 2022. And now he's supposed to be the front runner versus possibly Sheriff Brown's what it is. So yeah, there was a lot of guys that were involved in this race, dude, back then that like didn't jump in it at all, actually. So it's kind of crazy. Yeah, that's what it is. JD's not a hedge fund manager; he's a venture capitalist. That's what it was considered. That's what it is. Yeah, yeah. For those interested in what venture capitalists actually are, according to Wikipedia here, or I should say, according to Google search, here's what it is. It says venture capitalist is an investor who provides capital to startups in exchange for equity. So basically, it's kind of like Shark Tank guys, is what it is, where it's like, oh yeah, you know, we'll give you like the $150,000 for like 15% of your business, kind of thing is what it is there. That's what JD's doing. He learned from Peter Thiel to do this shit, is what it is. So that's how he made his money, was venture capitalism, is what it is. I knew it was one of the two. I couldn't remember. I thought it was hedge fund management, but I guess I was wrong about that one. No, it's venture capitalism, which is fine. Like, that's fine, dude. That works too as well. But, yeah, so basically you have all that happening is what it is then. And then what's really interesting is going back to stuff about JD here. And this is something I've talked about before. Like, we need bearded men again in this country to be in office, dude. Especially when you have stories that are coming out like particularly this one right here with JD's backstory, which is bearded JD Vance. Jesus Christ, this must have, would become first Veep with facial hair in nearly 100 years, which is fucking nuts, dude. Like, he'd be the first VP with a beard in almost a fucking century, bro. Huh. I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out where this fucking photo was taken, and the reason I asked this is because over to this woman over here with the blonde hair is actually First Lady Fran DeWine, or yeah, First Lady of Ohio Fran DeWine, and then the dude back here with the beard is Attorney General Dave Yost. So I'm not sure when that photo was taken, but obviously JD was there with him then. I wouldn't think that Mike DeWine, Fran DeWine, and Dave Yost all left Ohio to go hang out at the fucking RNC tonight. At least I would hope not. I mean, maybe they did. Who the hell knows? That'd be fucking crazy if they did. So, but yeah, so when JD Vance emerged in the public eye with a best-selling memoir, Eulogy in 2016, he fell in line with norms and rocked the clean look. That was back when he didn't have a beard, by the way. But then he realized he needed a beard now. But his beard was in full force when he was elected in the U.S. Senate in 2022, becoming one of the few politicians in Capitol Hill with facial hair. It says Charles Curtis was the last mustachioed vice president in 1933. Jesus Christ, dude. So during this time under Herbert Hoover, said last Veep to sport a beard as hefty as Vance's was Charles Fairbanks, who was Teddy Roosevelt's second in command in 1905 through 1909. Damn, dude, that is a long-ass time ago. So there are rumors that Vance's uncommon beard could have cost him his new title as vice president pick, with GOP campaign insiders telling the Berwick that the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, quote, just doesn't like facial hair. So you're talking about Trump doesn't like facial hair. Although, that being said, like, Trump needs to grow a fucking beard, man. He would look so bad. Like, Trump would look so badass with a beard, too. Like, JD and Trump both with beards, man. Like, that's what we fucking need as a ticket right now, people. Seriously, come on. So. Oh, really? Good old dickhead Michael Bloomberg making an ad for... It's good. I gotta go see this shit now, dude. Let me guess, it's some anti-gunner bullshit. I'm trying to remember what JD's record is on 2A at this point. I think he backed constitutional carry the year he was running for the nominee there, but I'm not sure offhand. I can't remember right now. So let me go jump over here to YouTube so I can get that one real quick. Jump to our page here real fast. Okay. Let me see. What is this link here? Okay. Okay. So, yeah. So this link says Everytown. Trump's VP pick, Senator JD Vance, called gun violence fake problems, because they fucking are, opposes expanding background checks and red flag laws. Oh, you mean universal background checks and unconstitutional red flag laws? You mean making Hitlerian gun rosters and literally trying to red flag who you don't like is what it is? Yeah, of course he opposes that shit. Supports arming teachers, as he should, as every American should. Advocated to abolish the federal agency that enforces gun laws, aka the ATF. And by the way, that is one thing he has done, and that does show he's a pro-2A champion, in my opinion, honestly. And it says, took nearly $500,000 from the NRA for his 2022 Senate campaign. As if Bloomberg and Everytown aren't fucking bankrolling every single Democrat in every single election cycle in this go-around, and every go-around for the last 20 years, dude. So, yeah. Sounds to me like JD is exactly who America needs to be vice president at this point, bro. Like, thanks, Michael Bloomberg. Great endorsement, buddy. So, yeah. That is who we need, people. That is who we need. And then we need a good person to replace JD in the U.S. Senate. And if that person is Vivek Ramaswamy, is appointed by DeWine and then eventually gets the win through a special election. Good on him. If it's not Vivek, if it's some other random person DeWine appoints, then I'm definitely gonna challenge at that point for the U.S. Senate seat in 2025, because that would be, as far as my awareness would be, it would be some point after Trump and Vance would win in November, like whatever like the 6th, 7th, 3rd would it be, is when DeWine would actually probably most likely say, hey, here's Vance's replacement, now is what it is in the U.S. Senate, and appoint that person, and then it would be between then and I believe February of 2025 is when you'd have people be able to submit their requirements in there to get on the ballot in either the Senate primaries would be, whether it be Democrat or Republican, and then it would be us all squaring off against each other in May of next year for that nominee, and then it would be whoever wins those would then go on. I believe it would be next November. Whoever wins that race then for special election potentially would become the nominee. So, yeah, that's basically what it would be. So it would essentially be whoever's appointed this year potentially could be in there for at least a year before being replaced in a special election. So hopefully it's somebody good. That's all I got one. And if it does turn out to be something where it is like a Vivek or something like that, dude, I'm not even going to bother. Like, I know I made the announcement earlier, but if it is somebody like Vivek and stuff like that, I won't even bother running for U.S. Senate myself. I will simply go on my original trajectory, and it'll be Adam Rogers for Ohio Governor 2026. And I'll be spending the next year campaigning to run for governorship down here, and hopefully making Ohio one of the best, most constitutional states ever again. That's what it is now. So, anyway. Yeah, other than that, that's pretty much who JD Vance is. That's his little backstory. Poor kid to venture capitalist, author, Marine veteran, et cetera, and then, of course, U.S. Senator, and now Vice Presidential candidate. So, yeah. And, of course, Pro 2A champion, trying to abolish the ATF and stuff like that. So, it's exactly what we need. It's exactly what we need to do right now. It's time to get shit done in this country, and it's time to take this country back and make America truly great again. Peace out, y'all. Stay safe. Have a good one. Later.